hbar, XRP, XLM, algorand, quant, and more. These dino coins you're gonna want to sell eventually, that is. For now, even after those very impressive runs, their charts look pretty damn good. And so if and when crypto continues to expand, I expect these coins to go up in price by quite a bit. Therefore, it's best to come up with exit plans for these coins right now, which is the topic of this video. Starting off with hbar. Now this chart looks insane. I think if you're a holder of hbar and bullish, you should be very glad that we're getting rejected where we currently are right now. These levels between 30 and 40 cents is where I probably would have expected hbar to top during an altcoin season. The fact that it's already getting the test of these levels over with is very bullish going forward, where we can then expect it to continue going up. So again, this probably would have been my base case for hbar this cycle, and it looks like it'll be getting to the bull case instead, which we'll get to in a second. So to help us out, I do think hbar will make new highs. So it will get past 57 cents. Once it gets into price discovery, like with any coin, it's difficult to project where it will end up. Sky is the limit in a way. That said though, there are still some things we can refer to. If we take a look at the fib levels, I can see that the 1618 shows that a 90 cent hbar could be quite the important level to reference. To me, I think from a sentiment point of view, that kind of does make sense as well. I think once we break these highs, everyone is going to be saying hbar gets to $1. And like with a lot of those scenarios, I could see us come just short. So a top at 90 cents is potentially one to look out for. But probably my favorite way to go about this is to reference the altcoin Bitcoin chart, or in this scenario, the hbar Bitcoin chart, as it is one of the few tangible ways to look for certain resistance levels and apply that to the USD chart. So like I mentioned in a video not so long ago, this deviation of price action outside of the range and then acceptance back into it is quite bullish. hbar did exactly that, and so now we're back into the range. I think what we want to do now is figure out different key levels within this hbar Bitcoin chart and see how that applies to the USD chart. For example, this zone here between 3 and 400 sats is quite the critical resistance zone. It served as major pivot points both in the resistance and support type of scenarios, so it's no wonder that we didn't sort of cleanly break through it. Assuming though that hbar continues to be bullish, there are some further levels up here that we can reference. This orange level resistance at 540 sats is a place where I can see hbar find the next bit of resistance. And so the way the altcoin Bitcoin chart works is if Bitcoin is a certain price, we multiply that by however many satoshis that altcoin makes up of Bitcoin. So 540 sats times a $100,000 Bitcoin, for example, would mean that that coin, in this case hbar, is worth 54 cents. And coincidentally, our all-time highs are 57 cents. So even though I project that a break of all-time highs is probably going to happen, don't expect it to just be a clean break. That may seem obvious, all-time highs are resistance. But this will not just be resistance on the USD chart, but also, as mentioned, the Bitcoin chart. If hbar can break those highs and get into price discovery, how can we use the Bitcoin chart to tell us where we're going to go? Well, on the Bitcoin chart, the next pretty hefty resistance comes in at this black horizontal at around 740 sats. And so if Bitcoin at that time is around, let's say, 120k, which I think is quite fair, then believe it or not, 120k times 740 sats would give you a price of hbar that is 89 cents, pretty much syncing up exactly to our 1618 level. And I wish this was a joke, but it isn't. And with crypto, you'll find that often that there is confluence between different sources. For some reason, it just checks out. So if you're holding hbar, I would seriously consider taking profits by the time we get there, if we get there, and not just tell yourself to bag hold for levels between $1 and $2. If in the middle of the bull market we get past $1, I will make an update video on not just hbar, but all of these coins. So make sure that you're subscribed for that, because I don't know a lot of channels covering crypto like this. Next up, we got algorand. Like a lot like hbar, and these other ISO 222 coins, it's had quite the vast vicious impulse upward. This could be the first wave of what eventually could be 5. For now though, one step at a time. Algorand has already actually tested my base case targets for this cycle. So again, if these Dino ISO coins didn't really catch a bid and were kind of meh the whole time, I could have seen Algorand eventually come up and test these levels during that altcoin season. But as stated, it's already tested those levels, which is quite good if you're an Algorand holder. Once Algorand gets past these levels, I think the next very obvious place to look, and what was actually my bull case targets in an Algorand video I made like a year ago, would be up here, between $1.23 to $1.50. And honestly, I could see Algorand topping there this cycle. Now, I do think the likelihood for Algorand to make a run toward highs is way higher than what it once was during this time. That said though, I still would recommend to pay very close attention to these levels here. I could see Algorand potentially topping here this cycle. And so don't put yourself in a position of just bag holding and targeting highs or even potentially new all-time highs. Again, look out for this zone. But then also when taking a look at our Algorand Bitcoin chart, again, we have some very critical resistance up here between 1,000 and let's call it 1,500 sats. Now, unlike hbar, I don't expect Algorand to get acceptance back into its range by the end of this cycle. Instead, what I think happens is a test of this range and then what will likely be a rejection, because I could see the timing of this test sort of sync up with a Bitcoin top, if that makes sense. I just don't think Algorand has quite the time to then get back into this range and then test range highs. And so if it does come up and test the lower side of this range in this zone, at that time, if we're talking about, 120k Bitcoin, we would be dealing with a $1.20 to a $1.80 Algorand. Probably somewhere in this zone, perhaps a little bit higher, but getting to all-time highs at $2.80 and breaking those highs is probably not going to happen. So if you were sort of hoping for that, then I would revise, pay attention to these levels down here. And once again, if we break these levels in a convincing manner, then I will make an update video for the levels to look out for potentially up here. But for now, that's what we got on Algorand. Very quick, before we cover the likes of XRP, XLM, Quant, and others, I do want to announce that I recently started an alpha group. More than just superficial calls, the goal is to nail this cycle. I'm posting a bunch of videos and content in there. Recently, I just made a video on my entire portfolio and what I'm holding going into that explosive part of the cycle. So if you're interested to join, there is a link in the description. There's 2 editions, the Pain and the Standard edition. If you just want access to the content, then sign up for the standard. The Pain edition is for a one-on-one focus and call. It is capped to 75 people and it is currently full. There is a waiting list that you can join, and those in the standard edition get priority to join first. Skip ahead of the line in a way. Now next up we have XLM. And this one is definitely the most interesting chart of them all. For starters, it seems we've tested and rejected from a diagonal that started back in 2017. So it does make sense that we've seen some sort of substantial pullback when getting near there. Also, in all honesty, we've sort of tested what would have been my bull case targets for XLM this cycle, these levels over here. So yet again, if you are bullish on XLM, don't be sad that we're currently down 30% from highs. Be happy that you got this crucial test already over with, because then on the next push up, you will probably break this diagonal. Now, some super basic things to look out for is obviously the 2021 high as well as the 2017 high, coming in at 81 and 93 cents. But with this one, I honestly don't know. And I can't say for sure like the other 2 crypto. I could see it break highs and make new highs, but I just don't know. But once again, I do think getting this test over with is probably one of the most bullish things going forward. Once it gets past this, let's call it 70 cents, it shouldn't be that much of a challenge. We're not looking at huge resistance, only the wicks of the highs, but we'll see. But with the stellar Bitcoin chart, it's pretty interesting. XLM spilled out of the bottom side of its range, and as you can see, the last time it did that, it was very bullish. Now, I'm not sure if this acceptance back into the range will cause the same sort of impulse as last time, but there has been acceptance nonetheless, which is a good thing. The very obvious zone to look out for would be right here, between what is 900 and 1200 sats. Make sure you take note of that. What's very interesting though is that if XLM does come up and test this critical zone, assuming at that time Bitcoin is around 120k, which it could be less, it could be a lot more, that would translate to new US dollar highs on the XLM chart. Specifically, that would be around $1 to $1.44, meaning XLM does have a real shot this cycle to make new all-time highs and top somewhere in that zone. I will draw out the block here. For XLM, I think going forward, you're going to want to reference the Bitcoin chart more than the actual USD chart, because once we get up here, there's going to be little data to reference, but over here, there will be plenty. If we break this zone, I will once again make an update, but for now, that is what I'm looking at. Next up, we got quant, and for this, we'll start on the Bitcoin chart. So I talked about this a little while ago, and back then, price action was still down here. I stated that quant will eventually come and test probably this harsh resistance over here. And when it does that, the USD chart will get pretty harsh resistance to go along with it. It did exactly that, tested that level and pulled back. So let's see how that translated to the USD chart. Very quick, as you can see, that test took place on December 7th. Quant USD was going up normally and made its current top on December 7th as well. Now at face value on the USD chart, you're going to refer to other levels over here. But as you can see at this price, there weren't any key resistance levels, if that makes sense. But by referencing the Bitcoin chart, it now makes sense why we would randomly top here the way we did. That said, what about now, going forward? This is difficult. In all honesty, if I had to sort of say it today, I think quant will top somewhere over here between 250 and 270, something like that. Or probably somewhere down here, where it wicked and got to before. But I think this zone up here we just highlighted is a pretty solid zone for quant to top at. Remember, quant has been very weak this entire sort of cycle, especially compared to its other Dino, Boomer, ISO counterparts. In terms of the Bitcoin chart, quant has pulled back quite a bit. Now it will face resistance again when it gets to this zone. If it can get past this, then I think the obvious sort of level would be up here, coming in at around 2500 sats. In all honesty, I don't really see quant hitting these higher Bitcoin targets ever again. It could obviously, but for now I'd focus up here. And so 2500 sats times 120k Bitcoin hypothetically would be around a $300 quant. So again, I wouldn't outright aim for new highs on quant unless the price of Bitcoin is very high, something like 200k, 250k. But for now, I think these are the levels I would want you to look out for. Next up, we got XDC. And one thing I sort of want to make clear is that, these crypto, a lot of people hate, especially in the crypto Twitter and YouTube community. It's only a real subset of people that cover these crypto. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like I've been bullish on all these crypto the whole time. But the reality is that these crypto are looking a lot stronger than most of the crypto that people who thought they were smart and knew what they were talking about were bullish on. Compared to those, these look way better. Now, I can't really advocate a buy for these right now. The gains from this point on are maybe limited, but the reason I'm saying this is because XDC, not really a crowd favorite, and yet the chart still looks incredible. Don't mind this giant wick on Bitfinex. They do that from time to time, but this coin does look very good. And if we took a survey during the 2022 bear market and asked people if XDC would make a new high this cycle, most, including myself, probably would have said no. But that being said, it does look like it's going to make new highs compared to its last cycle high. And so if that is the case, where should we look? In terms of the Bitcoin chart, it is extremely interesting because right now, it seems that XDC could have pulled off one of the most ridiculous deviations. If it gets acceptance back into this, that would be kind of crazy. I don't think I've ever seen that from a Bitcoin chart. I would, in that case, reference this zone here, which it kind of already tested and rejected from, coming in at around, let's call it 16 to 1800 sats, and then getting past that, probably then up here between, let's call it 2100 and 2500 sats. I don't think it'll make new highs, so I don't think it'll even get past this wick up here at around 3100 sats. But these are at play. If these levels get hit and Bitcoin is at around 120k, and the reason I keep saying that is because all of this is dependent on the price of Bitcoin. So these levels would translate to a $2 to $3 XDC, which would mean somewhere around highs or beyond highs. So a very good shot that XDC does make new all-time highs. And then we got XRP. This one I've been bullish on for a very long time. I said all the way back in the summer of 2023, after they won the lawsuit against the SEC, that it's gonna get to 10 bucks. They called me crazy back then, but I think now more than ever, targets of $10 or more are truly on the table and seem much more likely compared to back when it was still at around 50 cents. I tweeted a while ago as well that not holding XRP had to be the biggest opportunity cost this cycle, and now I think we're starting to see that develop. Now, would I be buying in now? I mean, probably not, but would I be holding? Definitely. XRP will make new highs, obviously. Next level I'm looking out for with XRP is around 4,000 sats. If Bitcoin at this time is still 100k, that would be $4 per XRP. But if Bitcoin is 120k, which it'll probably get to on its next push up on the lower end, I mean probably more, then we're looking at around a $5 XRP, which I think is extremely fair base case type of levels for this cycle, as they've always been. And again, once we break those levels, I'll make an update video. So make sure you're subscribed. If there's any other crypto you want me to cover in this fashion, then please let me know and comment them, and make sure you're subscribed to actually see them covered. And again, if you're interested in joining that group, there is a link in the description. But for now, we'll leave it there. These ISO Dino coins you want to sell, but not right now, because there is going to be more upside first.